Greetings, diners, and welcome to another Horror News Report here on the Collapse Cafe of the Doomstead Diner. And for today's report, we're going to focus on one aspect of what's going on in the coronavirus disaster that is ongoing, accelerating, and is not going to get any better anytime soon. The area that I want to focus on today is my personal favorite topic, besides economics, maybe, okay, which is food. All right? You know, the diner is, after all, named the Doomstead Diner. Diner, you know, that's where you go eat, okay? And there's a food theme running through the diner and restaurant theme. So, you know, food is a major concern. And it should be a major concern of everybody, really, because, you know, it's one of those necessary items you can't do without. You can't last, you know, very long without food, depending on how fat you are. You know, a month, 2 months, something like that. It completely out of food. You know, now you can scrounge and find other stuff. You can do dumpster diving, right? Okay, for a while, and you know, maybe if you're in a location like the type that I live in, you could go fishing or hunting, and maybe you own a doomstead. You know, you're one of those rich people who can afford 40 acres of land and, you know, hope that you can farm it enough to feed yourself, your family, and so forth. Very few people who own doomsteads are actually self-sufficient, I will have you know. It is, you know, you can supplement your food intake needs pretty well, but to actually become completely self-sufficient on a doomstead is exceedingly difficult. I think there are a few people that have accomplished it, but I'm not sure who they are. Some of our permaculture experts on the diner might be able to fill you in better on that. As for myself, I don't have the money to own a doomstead, number one. Number two, I don't believe in property ownership by individuals. Okay. And number three, I don't have a green thumb, okay? As I've said before, you know, a plant looks at me and it dies. All right, that's the way it goes. So growing food for myself is out of the question. So for my own food security needs in time of collapse, what I've done is prep up. All right, I have a supply of long-lasting food that you really would not believe. My entire apartment is one big warehouse of preps, food, and so forth. I've got shelves all over the place. One of these days I'll do a tour of the place. And I can literally go 2 years, maybe more, without ever leaving the apartment. I have backup systems to backup systems. For power, for heat, and so forth. You know, Alaska gets fucking cold. It's fucking cold out right now, and it's April. It's actually not that cold. I think it's in the 20s, which for us is, you know, it's cold, but not real cold. You know, it's not shorts weather. You know, shorts weather is anything over 30. You know, 30, 40. You know, you can go shorts and t-shirts and that if you're acclimated to this climate. But down in the 20s, you know, you got to wear a jacket, okay? So I want to talk about food and what's happening with coronavirus, and, you know, are we in danger of running out of food anytime too soon? Okay. And you see before you, and you saw at the beginning of the video, the food that I prepared for today, which is, I'll go around here. I've got, well, our beverages, Corona beer, okay, which does not protect you from coronavirus. Please do not think so, but you can drink it. It's good. All right. And Corona still has not sponsored me for my broadcast. I'm very disappointed. I want a free case of beer. And then we're having Alaska glacial spring water, the best water in the world. All right, as usual, to wash down the food. And now let's go around the offerings for today, and it is a classic steakhouse meal that you might order at Delmonico's or any number, Ruth's Chris of top steakhouses around the country. Smith and Wollensky, if they were still open, I believe they closed. That was a great steakhouse in New York. Although there is a little variation with this one. At any rate, I've got asparagus spears here, and often in a good restaurant they're served with hollandaise. But I actually prefer them just with butter, salt, and pepper. Okay, and so that's what we have. We have salt and pepper here, and what do you call it? They're steamed. Very simple preparation, and not steamed long because I don't like them mushy. All right, but not real short either because with my lack of teeth, I can't chomp through them. All right, if they're too stiff. Then over here, if you noted, we have a loaded baked potato, and I mean this guy is loaded. All right, and it's also huge. All right, it's a boat. It's one of our big Alaska potatoes. We grow these up here. All right, and a few vegetables grow extraordinarily big in Alaska. Carrots, cabbage, potatoes, particularly big. All right. You think Texas has big? Alaska goes bigger. And with it, it's topped with cheese. All right. In this case, sharp cheddar. And if you notice, it's kind of egg-shaped and it's got an orange top. Does that remind you of anything? Or anybody? And to go with it, we have some freshly made guacamole with avocados that were shipped up from Mexico. And, I still got a few of those left. They're not off the shelves yet. And sour cream, which comes to us from Washington State, because we don't have a dairy here in Alaska anymore. And then the ultimate pièce de résistance, part of the meal, a bone-in ribeye steak prepared or grilled in a Mexican style with fajita seasonings and onions, peppers, and garlic, okay? There was garlic in here. And actually I have a head of roasted garlic that's to go with this, but I forgot to put it on the plate. It's over in the kitchen still. I'm going to go get it when I actually eat this thing. And now, let's talk about the choices in this meal, or one of them in particular, which is the steak, the beef. And, we all know, or those of us who are familiar with the use of resources, that cattle raising and whole beef industry is extremely resource intensive, extremely water intensive, and is not sustainable for the 7.5 billion people that live on the earth. And so there's a whole crew of people who get all bent out of shape if you're a meat eater these days. You shouldn't be eating meat, okay? It's bad for the planet. Cows fart a lot, produce methane. It's a greenhouse gas, and this is true, okay? But, the thing is that these very same people drive their cars around every day, Many of them, especially climate scientists and so forth, fly in airplanes to go to various conferences and so forth. So, who's the hypocrite here? And, who's putting more carbon in the air? Who's saving the planet, not saving the planet? And then, everybody produces waste. You go into a store, you buy food from the superstore, and you're going to get packaging and so forth that goes with it. And all that goes to the dumpster and then to the land of away, which is a term that was coined by one of our former admins, Lucid Dreams, is the dump, okay? And we have dumps all over the country that are basically mountains of trash. New York, Staten Island, there's a huge one. And it's, years and years, decades, hundreds of years of accumulated garbage, from the ever-growing population over those years. So, yeah, it's true. It's not sustainable. Not for 7.5 billion people. But coronavirus and successive waves of other diseases and other problems are going to cause a serious knockdown of the population of Homo saps. And so, at some level, I'm not sure what it is, 100 million people maybe, down from 7.5 billion, it would be sustainable, again, to raise beef. And, hunting is going to be, a means of getting food as we spin further and further down the cycle here, away from industrialization and towards more subsistence forms of living. We'll probably go through a farming phase and a hunter-gatherer phase and some combination thereof, and so forth. Maybe a cannibalistic phase. And I'm serious there, folks. I mean, it could happen. So, I don't think meat eating is ever going to go out of style. And for myself, I've been a meat eater my whole life. If I stop right now, with the 2 years, maybe, or 3, I hope, that I have left walking the earth, it's a drop in the bucket compared to all the meat that I have already eaten. It's not exactly going to save the planet from what I already did. So I don't subscribe to the idea that you need to go vegan and all the rest of that. The meat's still there. Somebody's going to eat it. Might as well be you. Okay? All right. Now, let's talk about coronavirus in particular. We're all aware that there are food shortages of various types. I went over them. Missing items in my local food superstore when I went out right after the virus hit the news and people started to panic. And due to panic buying, several things disappeared from the shelves very rapidly. We hear the canned soups disappeared completely. So it was like locusts went by the Campbell's soup shelf. And frozen pizzas, okay? Believe it or not, frozen pizzas were gone. And then at Walmart, eggs were basically sold out. But then over the last couple of weeks, this was a result mainly of panic buying. Everybody going out all at once and buying these staples, these things that they figured they really needed to last them a while, which nobody knows how long it's going to be, but a while. Through the pandemic and lockdowns and all the rest of the stuff that is ongoing right now to try to control the spread of the virus. So, but what about long-term shortages? And, will we see them? When will we see them? And so forth. And the deal here is, there's no shortage of capacity at the moment. All right? But we have several issues here. And the main one is supply chains. And David Koretz wrote a very seminal paper on financial cross-contagion. I recommend everybody read it and or listen to our interview with David on our Diner SoundCloud channel. And as things break down, more people out of work, more people with health problems, fewer workers, and so forth, many of these supply chains and production facilities are going to start to go offline. And as they do, then you start to see real systemic shortages of stuff. And then on the financial level, as many of you know, I hope, you're about to get a $1,200 free money bonus check from Doug Oberon to help you weather the storm here. And it's supposed to come now, I read or heard, in 2 to 3 weeks. And if you got direct deposit, it will come quicker. And if you have a high income, it scales down. You don't get the full $1,200. And your kids, if you've got those, get $500 a piece. The only issue being that this great bonanza, maybe lasts a month for the average family that lives in either a McMansion with a mortgage or even a nice rental, that's big enough for them, especially if they're in a big city, Seattle, Los Angeles, New York, Dallas, Austin, etc. Rents there, the rent in those places or mortgage will take out that entire bonus check in 1 month. So, it's got to have to be followed up in some way, and that remains a mystery as to how that will go down the line. But, they bought a couple of weeks' time that way. So the financial aspect and having money to buy the food is a problem for individuals. And then the value of the dollar as money is being printed willy-nilly to do this. I mean, a $2 trillion stimulus, there isn't money in the bank or anything like that for the FS of A to, just fork over $2 trillion, I'm going to say million and billion, trillion, fork over $2 trillion to the public, drop it from helicopters. That's all funny money. And it's going to, depress the value of the dollar. Now, other countries are also printing funny money. So, it's hard to say whose currency is going to devalue the fastest. And that's a big issue. In general, because it's the world reserve currency, the dollar is usually the best looking dog in the pound. So it has lost significant value, though, already. And the stock market, of course, is tanking. And oil is tanking. It's at a 17-year low, I believe. Which means your gas prices will be a whole lot cheaper. But, where are you going to drive to? Okay. And, how long the companies, fracking companies, can keep pumping, how long the credit will keep flowing, and all the rest of that is an open question. Many of the smaller businesses are folding already. The oil majors, though, they have a direct line to the money valve, which you might want to read my series on that, my financial series, Money Valve Parts 1 through 4. You can find it on the Diner blog. Just type that into the search box and you'll get them, and those posts will come up and give you some idea of how integrated the oil market and the financial market is, and the dollar and the value of the dollar and all the rest. And we all know the term, well, I don't know if we all know it, but the term petrodollar, and that Nixon, Tricky Dick, took the dollar off the gold standard, and Bretton Woods agreement was essentially invalidated back in the 70s, and we've sort of been living on borrowed time ever since, and building more and more irredeemable debt. So that's going to all go up in smoke in the greatest bonfire of paper wealth in all of recorded history. I wish you luck as we progress down the coronavirus collapse leg of the journey to something else. And eat well, stock up, grow your own food, hunt, fish, whatever you can do to provide for yourself and your family in these times is good. And that's all to do. This time until next time, here on the Coro News Report of the Collapse Cafe on the Doomstead Diner. Hasta la ribeye steak, asparagus, and loaded baked potato. Twice baked, actually. Okay? Twice baked. Sour cream and stuff's already in it. Yummy.